Marilyn's volume up by any chance?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Thank you.
Is that 15-second delay that you have to have on broadcast? Okay. All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to January 18th regular meeting of council. The city of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish nations and their traditional territory upon which we gather with gratitude. Consent agenda. I'd like to make a motion for all three items on the consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Fraz, second by Councillor O'Brien. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have two delegations today. We'll start off with the first one, the Parksville and District Chamber of Commerce. We have to get Mr. Burton out of the waiting room. There, I saw him. Okay. You're still muted, Kim.
Sorry, just
Yeah, take your time.
got in. So thank you so much for the opportunity to present the Oceanside Benchmark Public Art Project. This is something new for the Chamber in terms of our what we usually offer and what we do, but Oceanside Benchmark, it's a public art project. And we want to encourage community creativity and collaboration. We have 30 art benches that are going to be displayed publicly from the Noose to Bowser. And the hope is that the benches are going to help to connect and inspire creativity based on the very challenging year that we've just come through. Artists were invited to submit their concepts to design and create their vision of this welcome bench and leave their mark in the community. And in addition to the art component, we want the benches to engage visitors and locals, and they will be able to follow the project on social media and participate in a self-guided tour to view all of the benches, which will be on display from June until September. So this is a partnership, and it's a significant partnership between the Parksville and District Chamber of Commerce, the Qualicum Beach Chamber of Commerce, the McMillan Art Center, and the Old Schoolhouse. So for obvious reasons, we've met with both of the art representatives in our Oceanside community. The chambers are sort of looking after the nuts and bolts of the project, and the art facilities are looking after recruiting the artists and looking after that end of things. That's their expertise. So we've started off with the concept and lots of discussion, and then we had a logo designed. And I don't know if where are we? Because we should be, I'm sorry, I forgot to talk about advancing your slides. Can we go to the third slide, Sarah? There we go. That one. I can sort of see it on your screen. Great. So we put together a logo so that we can promote both to the artists and to the community. And it displays the concept of the tagline inspired by the wait, where we can maybe encourage people to sit and contemplate and maybe be at peace and just enjoy the fabulous community that we live in. And the next slide. So we designed a bench. We built a prototype. We talked to Weatherwise Cedar Products, who very graciously donated the materials required to construct 30 benches. But then we had to find someone to build 30 benches. I built that one in my shop at home, but I sure as heck don't have room to build 30. So we went to Ballina Secondary School, and the grade 11 and 12 woodworking students from Ballina Secondary have built 30 benches. Thank you very much to Byron Ayers, the woodworking teacher who made the project part of his class. And his quote, he said, "I like contributing to community projects such as this because the kids can take real ownership of their work." And the next slide. So there they are, ready to be picked up and given out to the artists so that they can add their creative designs. And hopefully you had an opportunity to read the story that appeared in the PQB News on December 22nd, which will just give you a little bit further insight into the project. So happy to take any questions. And again, thank you for hearing us out today. And we're also looking for participation from the city. I believe, Mr. Mayor, I sent you a email hoping that you would consider being on part of the selection committee when it comes to reviewing all of the designs that are submitted from the various artists. And we will be talking to you again when we get to that point where we're looking at locations. So we're looking for a combination of displaying these benches on public and private property. And the distribution is 10 in the regional district of Nanaimo, 10 in the town of 10 in the town of Qualicum Beach, and 10 in the city of Parksville. So, and we're open to any ideas that you may have in terms of where to put them. And we've also designed an interactive map where we will pin the as yet undetermined locations so that people can go on a self-driving tour to view all of the benches and select a viewer's choice award, and also just have be an additional opportunity to give people a reason to take a look at the community, whether they're visitors or whether they're residents. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burton. I would be honored to be on the panel for judging that, just so you know that.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Councillor Patterson, then Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I have a couple. So Kim, you mentioned that they would be up from June to September. What do you anticipate would happen to the benches after September?
Oh, I neglected that, but we're going to sell them. Part of the purpose of this is a fundraiser for the artists, for the art groups, and for the chambers. So after at the end of the summer, after everybody's had an opportunity to view them, we're going to have an auction, probably online, and that way we're hoping that the benches can continue to be displayed in the community in some fashion.
Thank you. I'll hold off on my other questions till we go around.
Fair enough. Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Kim, for your presentation. You partly answered one of my questions, the fact that they're going to be sold after the summer, because when I was looking at the benches, they didn't look like they were built strong enough to be type of city bench to last year round. So if you're going to sell them at the end of the summer, I'm sure they can last for the summer. But they looked like pretty lightweight benches to me to be in municipalities.
Well, they hold me, Al.
Well, then they should be all right.
That's right.
Councillor O'Brien.
And thank you, Your Worship, and through to Mr. Burton, if I could at this time. Kim, can you advise, like the locations I understand from Bowser to Nanoose, and the allocation for Parksville will be approximately 10 perhaps. You suggested that they're going to be on some private land and public land. Is that included in the 10 to Parksville, or are all 10 for Parksville slated for Parksville land?
No, we haven't determined any locations yet. We're hoping to get some assistance from you in that regard. And we're looking at a combination of private property and public property. I know some business owners that have already come forward and said, we'd like to put a bench on our property. We want to make sure that they're distributed throughout the community so that when people are on their driving tours, they get to see the whole community. So we'll be looking at that as we move forward. The timeline is I believe the call for artists closes in the first week of March, and we're hoping to have the benches completely decorated by the end of May so that they can go out into the community at the beginning of June.
And as a follow-up, Your Worship, if I may, Kim, and just have you considered if those that are going to be in public areas, some security features, so forth, so that the benches don't walk?
Yes, I have considered I've got a couple of plans in place depending on the absolute location, but they'll definitely be secured.
That's great. Thank you for that.
All right. Councillor Patterson, I'm sorry. You were so gracious the first time.
Thank you, Your Worship. This question is through you to our CAO in regards to staff time and commitment and where we go from here. I'm going to assume that there's going to need a motion for this to take place. And I guess I have a couple questions, the insurance aspect and who would be supplying that. And if it's on city land, then that's a city aspect. So just a couple follow-ups there, please.
If I may, Your Worship, there's a couple of different ways we could approach it. I don't think it would be a huge amount of staff time. We do have sort of a permit to work on city streets that might be appropriate. We would just really work with the chamber to make sure that if it were going on city streets, that there was proper access around. And there might be some areas that would not really be conducive to it just because of how narrow some of our sidewalks are. But I don't foresee any significant challenges. We do have a number of different agreements with the chamber already. And so I think we could sort it out relatively quickly. Again, with insurance, we're able to deal with it at a very low cost. And I think if council did endorse the program, we would just make sure that everything was in order. And I think it would be quite operational to manage working together.
Follow up.
Sure.
At this point in time, are you looking for an endorsement for the program? I'm asking council and the mayor himself.
Sure.
Can I put forward that today that we endorse the Benchmark Community Public Art Project without a notice of motion?
I think we're all in favor of that. Everybody in favor of it to do it today? You've got unanimous. Go.
Do I need to still follow up with the motion to endorse it?
Tell
or
us what you're saying. Yep, what you want to say.
That city staff work with the Chamber of Commerce and any other partners for the Benchmark Community Public Art Project for the proposed 10 benches in the city of Parksville.
Second, Councillor O'Brien. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Kim.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a delegation from the Parksville Community Centre Society. Based on that, you have 10 minutes. Please go forward. Pardon me? But that's what it says. They'll tell us what it's about. The request was for conclusion of the PCC Operating Agreement. So I will let you go forward, please. No, they're muted. That's why.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, councilors and staff. Thank you for allowing us to make a presentation here today. I am the PCCS Director Dwayne Round, and with me is PCCS President Holly Heppner. And with your permission, Your Worship, I will get started.
Please.
Oh, it's on the screen there? Okay. It's hard to see on the Zoom here. And I guess I have to ask for it to be moved to the next one?
Yes.
Okay. So if you'd move to the second slide, please. The community came together in 1947 and built a community center that lasted for 50 years. Next, please. It was used for social gatherings and was the heart of the community. Next, please. The Parksville Community Centre had the community come together for a second time to build the current community center with lots of support from businesses and the residents in the community. Next, please. The city was very thankful for all the volunteers' efforts and offered whatever support they needed. They recognized that the final contributions would continue, and they offered their continued support and encouragement. Next, please. The Parksville Community Centre Society was formed in 1996 and is the same one that operates today. This is an early agenda of one of their early meetings, laying out the timeline for renovating the former middle school. Next, please. The society and the community came together and saved the city a lot of money. The city's total investment was 1.6 million, which was half of what they originally figured that they were going to have to spend. And the PCCS raised $335,000. Next, please. Community groups were very supportive, including the Parksville Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Business Association, the Parksville Qualicum Tourist Association, District 69 Recreation Association, as they realized the economic benefits the center brought to the community. Next, please. The PCC is the only facility of its kind in Parksville and area that can support events of this size. Next, please. At 2,100 square feet of space, it far surpasses the next closest facility in Parksville of 10,000 square feet. And you can see by the chart there, the comparisons of other facilities in the area. Next, please. The 7,100 square foot theater is the biggest and best for shows and concerts, as it fits more people, theater style, and around tables for a formal dinner. Next, please. The next biggest room available is only 2,300 square feet, which is at the Tinamera. Next, please. The city hired KPMG at a cost of $36,000, which is one of Canada's leading professional services firms, to do a report on the society. Next, please. The PCC is the only facility that prioritizes nonprofits' use and attracts people into the downtown core to support local businesses. Next, please. KPMG came to the conclusion that the PCCS manages the facility very well and has stabilized costs after unionizing in 2011. Next, please. In 2020, the city cut the grant to the Parksville Community Centre Society more than half and budgeted it, cut it even more in 2021. You can see by the chart that the costs after 2011 unionization stabilized. Next, please. KPMG also found that the city underused the facility and should use it more instead of going to private facilities, which staff told them that they were required to do. They also made note that the city's negative public relations articles concerning the city subsidies made it harder to attract board members, users, and an executive director. Next, please. PCC compares favorably with Qualicum Beach Civic Center and all other similar facilities of similar abilities, as you can see by the chart that KPMG developed. Next, please. What is a community center? I've heard that question asked. Community centers are a gathering place for the community, and most do not provide services or provide programs. In fact, the Qualicum Beach doesn't even mention it on their website. Next, please. And here's some of the programs that were ran at the PCC in 2019. These programs were for people of all ages and were done through partnerships with community groups. Next, please. In fact, there were quite a bit more programs than most, including free rent since 2002 to emergency services and citizens on patrol, including free utilities. Next, please. We've received many letters of support from the community that have came to PCCS and many more directly to the city of Parksville. Next, please. A recent poll in PQB News showed that 86% of the community want a community center today, not a promise of one possibly years from now. Next, please. We started a petition up just over a week ago, and we've already received 933 signatures on that petition, and it's growing more and more every day, showing that we have enormous support in the community to continue the PCC. Next, please. Closing the PCC will have a detrimental effect on the citizens of all ages, including on the local economy. Next, please. The center was built, funded, and operated by dedicated volunteers and feel they should be consulted on this substantial shift. Next, please. All of council, when elected in 2018, said you would listen, be transparent, and consult with citizens before making decisions. You were not given a mandate to repurpose the Parksville Community Centre during the election or at the Mayor's Roundtable in 2019. This decision was made in closed meetings without any input from citizens and was only made public when you said the decision was final. We are asking you to put a hold on this process until people can comment on this decision. Next, please. The people that have worked so hard to make a place to gather, and the many users over the years, and that continue to use or attend events at PCC today, are very saddened and feel betrayed by Parksville Council. As you can see, this letter we received from Mrs. Watler, whose husband's name is on the plaque there of the founding members. And I would ask PCC President Hawley to finish up for us. Hawley?
Yep, just a minute.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to hurry a little bit. We're past the 10 minutes as we speak.
As I wish to remind you that the board of the Parksville Community Centre are all volunteers. One last comment, which comes from my heart, and I can say it comes from many, many others in our great community. As you can see, Councillor O'Brien, the Parksville Community Centre Parksville does care about the Parksville Community Centre. Many impressionate people from our community have come forward to save our Parksville Community Centre contrary to what you believe. So I'm asking any of you to make a motion to reinstate the operating agreement between the City of Parksville and the Parksville Community Centre Society. Please listen to the almost 1,000 citizens who have already signed the petition. They are your constituents, not to mention the hundreds of letters written in support. I am deeply saddened to read the false claims in the CAO's forthcoming report in regards to School District 69 dated January 6th. I thank the council for listening to our presentation today.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions? Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, are we all back to where we're supposed to be now? Thank you. We will be discussing this briefly in the next little while, so we'll have a chance at that. We have 3 pieces of correspondence on the agenda: the Parksville and District Historical Society, Parksville Museum 2020 Annual Report. I need a mover and a seconder for the report to be received. Councillor Fraz and Councillor Chandler. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Correspondence from the City of Nanaimo Mid-Island Regional Child Care Action Plan. I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation to be received. Councillor Fraz again, Councillor Greer. You, we sent out, did we not, the full report? Oh. Sarah, I think, sent it to everybody. It's 100 and some odd pages long, but you, okay, there you go. So it's actually the executive summary. It gives it a real good summary of the whole thing. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. District 69, safety concerns on the intersection of Despard and Moilliet. I need a mover and a receiver, or a mover and a seconder to be received. Councillor Chandler, second by Councillor Greer. Any discussion on this? Councillor Fraz?
Thank you. It's great seeing this letter come forward from the school board. I think this topic has been on a lot of people's minds, just as far as safety around schools and so on. One thing I just want to suggest to council is that perhaps we get a chance to meet with them to discuss this. I think there needs to be a broader conversation rather than the school board having a conversation, us having a conversation independently. Particularly since they're asking for cooperation. Well, to cooperate with anybody, I think we need to be able to communicate with them. I'm sure this is not the first time they've had concerns about this, but this is the first time that I've seen anything from them to us. So I think the next step would be to invite them to a meeting. So maybe following the receiving of this report, and then I'll be putting forward a motion to that we invite them to meet with us.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Just as a side note on that, or actually it's not a side note, it's a full note, that the CAO will be meeting with the superintendent next Wednesday on this subject. So I would suggest we might want to wait and see what they have to say, and then from there, whether it's wise to have a meeting, just my thoughts on this. But on receiving, if it was state of the subject, any other points? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now,
I guess just with that in mind, I didn't realize that the CEO was going to be meeting with them.
just happened today.
If I may, Your Worship, the superintendent just reached out to set up a meeting with staff, and so myself and the acting director of engineering are meeting with the GM of facilities, I believe, the treasurer and the superintendent. And what we had discussed was whether it might be worth city staff providing a background memo to the school board that indicates what city actions have been taken with respect to traffic. And we also have a Safe Routes to School program and a few other initiatives that the board may not be aware of, and council may not be aware of it either. So we'll certainly follow up after that meeting and hopefully just continue to share information on everything that has happened so far.
Yeah, a couple of years back, I think in early 2019 anyways, we had met with the school board previously as groups, and I thought it was a pretty useful kind of conversation to come out of that. I do think maybe we are due for that again. I'd like to see what comes out of your guys' conversation, but what I'm hoping isn't something that goes on, is it just kind of goes back and forth for a while, ultimately leading to a conversation amongst the school board and council as well. So maybe I'll hold off for now, but anticipating that after hearing back from how that meeting goes, that I will probably be interested in advancing a meeting together with the school board and council.
Might I make a suggestion here is that, does it have to be pertaining to Despard and Moilliet? Maybe what we need to do is do what we did the first time and just have a meeting with the school board, period, with the two groups together. And, you know, if this comes up as part of the conversation, so be it. If something else comes up, I think it's a good time to, I mean, it's not like we have far to go. It's just, we're all in the same building here. So maybe that's not such a bad idea. And if we can ask the CAO to perhaps arrange that, if council's in favor of the idea, then we can do it before the end of the year, I would hope. Tying schedules together is a little bit cumbersome, but especially right now. But if I can get a motion to that effect, and we just arrange a general meeting with the Board of Education.
Okay, I'll put that forward as a motion. I think that was kind of my intention, is that it wouldn't just be about this one singular issue,
Okay.
but just an overall
All right,
meeting.
good.
So if there's a desire for that, then I'll put forward that motion.
Seconded by Councillor Patterson. Any other conversation on this? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Good. Thank you. Good idea. Mr. Russell, somewhere in TV land here, could you fill us in on the background on development permit for 113 and 161 Island Highway West?
Yes, my Mayor, Worship, and Council this evening. Great to see everyone. This is a follow-up report for issuance of a development permit to facilitate a restaurant, campground, accessory buildings, outdoor pool, landscaping, and parking on the subject property. This application has been referred to the advisory design panel on October the 22nd, and then was referred back to the design panel at their meeting held on December the 3rd, 2020. Since that advisory design panel meeting, the applicants have reviewed the comments of the design panel and made some changes as detailed on page 39 of the agenda and the 5 points of what they've addressed. The recommendations are as per the agenda to consider issuance of the permit.
Fair enough. I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Chandler, second by Councillor O'Brien. Discussion. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I may, at this particular time, I have two comments regarding this application. Basically, as I understand it, the zoning is already in place on this site for campground development, and therefore we can't decline that based on that very issue right up front. But I have to express my disappointment for the campground development permit application that's situated on this magnificent prime waterfront location. This location deserves treatment as a potential inspirational landmark development that creates an exceptional land use proposal that befits this site and beckons embracement by our community and visitors. A campground, in my opinion, falls short on so many levels, but that is just my disappointment with this, and I think this could have been a far greater project. My second comment would be to do with the application itself for the forming character under section 2. As proposed anyways in the, after the ADP had met with them further, they came back with a detailed design on the fencing around the property, which is situated along the boardwalk or the boardwalk section or the ocean section of the property. They have indicated that they want to put in a black chain link fence adjacent to this boardwalk, and it looks more institutional and industrial appropriate and not acceptable for this location. If the applicant requires fencing at this site, it should be of the same standard and design of the existing fence installed from the hovercraft pad continuing adjacent to the paved section of beach walk in the community park, thus providing some needed continuity of our waterfront. The fencing I'm referencing resembles a split rail cedar fence constructed with composite materials to ensure longevity. I would like to have the make the suggestion that this fencing should be replaced by, as I've suggested, something that would be more in continuity with the rest of our community park.
Thank you. Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too am disappointed in this project, and I spoke up a couple of months ago when it was brought to council about this. We've had some good opportunities over the years to have a much greater development than a trailer park, and I just can't see for the life of me why we would have the most important piece of property in our city made into a trailer park. The other thing about trailer parks as well, economically, they're known for not spending a lot of money in the community. They buy groceries, they buy booze, and that's about it. So economically, it doesn't do the city any good to have such a trailer park as well. It is too bad that we have not been able to negotiate with these people to compromise on the 16 and 12-story building. I thought that the development was an excellent development, other than for the heights. And, but I guess we're in a no-win situation. I realize the zoning is good for here. But going forward, I'm sure that we should take a better look at some of these developments to make sure they are what we want. And anyways, that's about all I guess I can say on this. I'm just disappointed. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, through your worship. Just a comment. And again, I'm disappointed. However, I know that when they did a public inquiry and had people go to the beach club to talk about this event and the possibility of them doing this proposal, there was a large backlash at that point, and a lot of people that didn't like the idea. And I know that's not the first, reasonably decent presentation that's been given before. So it's quite sad to see that that it was struck down and we didn't get a chance to have them come back to us, but they made that decision potentially out of frustration. But the one thing I'm really happy to see is that the derelict building is going to be removed and gone forever. I think that community has got a heel over that building. It's been an eyesore for 10 plus years now, and it's just so amazing that it's actually going to be gone now. So I want to echo my satisfaction on that for sure, but dissatisfaction on the unfortunate underbuilding of this location. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fraz.
Thank you. Through the mayor to council. When I look at this project coming forward here, I do see this as progress and an improvement on what's currently there. As Councillor Chandler mentioned, the buildings have been an eyesore and an upset for the community for quite some time. It's clear that they are deconstructing it right now. Walking down past it, you can see the buildings are empty. It's moving along pretty good. This might not be my first choice as to what I'd like to see for that area, but I do believe this is kind of a placeholder project and that it's a temporary. Just when I look at the nature of what they're doing, they're not making a drastic permanent changes or things that couldn't be changed. The restaurant I anticipate will be there for years to come, but the campground, I do see this as something that could be changed down the line. So I like the progress. I like the improvement. They have gone to the ADP a couple of times. They've listened well to it. I've seen them respond to it. Even things like the chain link fence, you know, I hear their concerns as to why they want to have some kind of security feature separating it from there, and maybe a split rail fence might not meet their needs there. They plan to have some plantings throughout there, so I don't think the chain link you'll see quite to the extent that we might anticipate, but I do like the wood features that they have incorporated into it. So like I say, to me, I look at this as progress, and that's something I'm happy to see.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I thought I would weigh in as well, and I'm going to echo a lot of what Councillor Fraz has said. This is progress. And after the last year of lack of some things going forward in our community, it's nice to see that they're still being patient and willing to continue in this community. So I'm looking forward to that. And like Councillor Fraz has said, I don't believe that this is a long-term commitment. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing a restaurant in the area and having people be employed in our community. And hopefully in time, we will see something that befits the property. And I look forward to that. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, through Your Worship. Many of the comments I agree with, even Councillor Fraz's as well, in that there is some progress. However, I'm terribly disappointed that this is going to be an RV park. I think it is a missed opportunity. I'm not sure how long it's going to be there, given how long the previous structure has been there. So I would hope that it will come forward as something more substantial and more permanent. I'm sure the restaurant will. But my issue is with the chain link fence. And I appreciate that the developer has come forward with a revised chain link fence, but I feel it is actually more appropriate to for fencing that might be, it's not appropriate for a downtown waterfront revitalization project. It just does not fit. And as a matter of fact, I don't feel any chain link fencing belongs in our downtown or any high profile projects. So I think that there are other types of fencing that could be ornamental, whether it be wood, whatever, but certainly not chain link. And this is a world-class beach, and we have tourism is a huge part of our economy here. So I think that all of our developments going forward should reflect a higher standard. So I would only approve this on condition that the fencing be changed and to something that is more decorative, either wood or metal fencing, and that the landscape deposit should be held back until the fencing is approved by council. And I don't know whether I could make a motion to that effect.
Go ahead.
If I may, Your Worship, through to Councillor Wilson, I think that if council wants to see a specific type of fencing as part of the permit, there's already a motion on the floor, but I think with the approval of the mover and seconder, who I believe was Councillor Chandler and Councillor O'Brien, I think it could be amended to include that specific type of fencing as the term of permit, because right now it would be per the development schedules. And so if council has a specific design or style, I think the most appropriate way would be to amend the motion slightly with the agreement of the mover and seconder.
I'm looking to both of those individuals.
If I may, Your Worship, I guess my question would be, how long would something like this delay this situation? I guess that would be first and foremost.
If I may, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Chandler, I'm not I don't really know how long it would delay it. Presumably, they could do the work sort of simultaneously, where they're preparing certain aspects of the design and the development while they adapt or adjust the fence. But I'm not sure it would depend on the availability of their folks, but it certainly would, I think, have an impact on cost for them.
Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. And a question through to our CAO as well. Would we have to actually specify a fence that we would prefer there instead of something that just says would be more suitable? Seems rather obtuse anyways on what that actually means. So I guess if we could be specific and suggest that the fence should be a replica of what's already in the community park, it gives us a standard that they can go to, and we can work from there if that's in agreement with Councillor Chandler as well.
I would agree to that.
Okay, so so we're making an amendment. You're proposing an amendment that will say that the fencing shall coincide with the city park fencing, the split rail and concrete fencing.
That is correct.
All right, you can do the words. You can do the words. So I'm taking it that you're doing that. Discussion on the amendment. Councillor Fraz.
So for me, I don't know if this is really accomplishing too much just based on the fact that there's going to be plantings around this fence that are going to consume it. I get the idea that a chain link fence isn't the most desirable thing, but the aspects that I do agree with it is one, being a black chain link fence. Two, there's currently already a chain link fence there and the neighboring property. So it's not out of alignment with what's already there. Our community fence that we have, the split rail, it's, you know, we're asking for one standard out of them, but not out of the neighbors surrounding them. So I don't think this request is necessary. As I say, the plantings around there are going to consume it as well. It provides not just the privacy of it, but also the security that I think is the aspect they're going for. So we're asking them to do something that's not in alignment with what their needs are.
Councillor O'Brien and Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. The idea of removing the chain link fence is to actually is for aesthetically purposes only. The fact that they have asked that they want a chain link fence, as mentioned by Councillor Fraza, the adjoining property has a chain link fence. Well, that's an existing chain link fence, which we have no ability to adjust that until that property next door with the chain link fence does go to development permit as well, which will happen eventually. The other adjacent on the other property on the other side, being that of the beach club, resort, of course, does not have any chain link fence. In fact, it doesn't have any fence in front of their entire run of the whole property. And thus it doesn't look so institutional or industrial as such. And so the idea is that there's going to be some plantings in there. And I attended that ADP meeting as well, where I saw the revised plantings. It was unclear whether they were deciduous plantings or not. So what it's going to look like in the winter maybe not so nice once the leaves fall off. But the other thing is that it's going to take a while before whatever plantings are in that area actually grow up to a point that hides that chain link fence, which is it. So I really believe that the fact that they've decided to put in a RV park in this or campground in this area, that was really their choice type of thing. But the thing is that no, they don't have the right to turn it into an industrial zone. So that's my feeling regarding that. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Wilson. I wrote your name down and then ignored you. My apologies.
Thank you, through the mayor. So I also want to just say that to Councillor Fraz that some of the ornamental plantings are actually shrubs, and I believe it's the Rosa Nootkina, which is it's deciduous, or so it's going to lose its leaves in the winter anyway. And it's a shrub, so it's not really going to cover. But I think one of the areas that really concerns me is the walkway, where they have, there's a diagram of that fence that they're proposing, where they put the wood on. And that actually, I think, looks even worse than the chain link fence. It's got rough cedar topping. It looks quite like something you might use in a farm to hold back your animals. It's just definitely not decorative enough for a downtown beachfront property. So you know, if they, I guess if the if the developer wanted to put in evergreens or something to cover that fence, if he needs to have some sort of security there for the park, which is perhaps what he's going for, he's already using an ornamental steel fence on the railings for the accessory buildings, and he's using glass and steel railings on the restaurant walkway. So perhaps he could even consider something along that line and keep a continuity to it. But I definitely do not feel that chain link fence is appropriate at this time. And as Councillor O'Brien said, the fence next door, it's existing. But going forward on a revitalization project, I feel that we need to step up our game, and every developer has to come forth with a type of development that really will reflect well on Parksville. So.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'm sitting here thinking about it, and it's one of those questions. There is no right or wrong answer on this, other than the fact that we don't do it now, we never will do it. That's my concern, is that it'll end up being like the property next door. It's just a fence, and oh, well, they've already built, we already gave them approval, we can't make them change it, so it stays that way. Whereas with the property next door, I agree, at some point in time, hopefully in the not too distant future, that property will come up for development. And when it comes up for development, that's when you can extend the fencing so that it coincides all the way down the whole boardwalk to be the same all the way across. I really like that idea. I have it envisioned in my head. The question I have for everybody, are we talking about, or are we only interested in the fence that's going across the boardwalk, or are we talking about putting split rail concrete up the sides of the property? What is the intent of this? I'm just curious, because there is a fence that's going up between the two pieces of property, between the two, well, both trailer parks if they come to fruition. So I'd like to hear what everybody's opinion is on that. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship, and for clarification. My proposal would only be for on the waterfront side of it. The other three sides of it, they can continue to as strong. It is on the waterfront side, adjacent to the boardwalk, that I feel would have the change of the fence.
Okay. Is everybody kind of feeling the same way that is in favor of this? Anyways, I'm just kind of trying to get a feel of council for it. Councillor Wilson?
Yes, and I think that that's pretty reasonable. And anywhere around the property, they're already using thuja cedars to screen the fence from the highway. So, you know, if they needed to, they could always screen along the side border, or the new property owners could do, or the property owners on the other side could. So I think the boardwalk is the main issue here.
All right. No other comments?
Can I just add one thing? And I think that when we were talking about the timeline for this, I guess what I was assuming was that the developer would go ahead with everything. It's the fence that is the issue, at least from my perspective, and that if the landscape deposit be held back, we had another situation recently where it was a bit of a surprise that the developer used chain link fence. It kind of got missed. And so the landscape deposit was given back. So therefore, you know, that could never be changed. So if that were part of this amendment, if you will, then perhaps there would be more incentive to make sure that the developer did put in fencing along the boardwalk that would be appropriate.
I'm not so sure that it got missed. I think it's exactly what was in the design when it went through.
It was. I just the fact that the chain link was in there. Yes, I understand. But
Councillor Fraz.
So a question to staff through the mayor: if the developer then refuses to amend the fence, could that possibly kill this project? Are we saying that they're not allowed to? Like it's hinging on the fact of them changing the fence?
Are you
If I may, worship through to Councillor Fraz, it's a tricky question to answer because ultimately, once the development permit is issued, they can proceed with construction. And it really is when they request their landscaping security, then we do a site inspection to see what works have been complete. And at that time, if works aren't, substantially complete, we would then hold their landscaping security or a portion thereof until those items are complete. So the landscaping is usually the last thing that's done in a development because obviously as things are being constructed and built, they would get destroyed. So that's sort of why there's that set landscaping security at the end. For the buildings themselves, the building permitting process takes care of that side of it.
Okay, and then if I may for fault, then just clarifying this motion then is it's only regarding holding the security deposit or the landscaping deposit then? It's not the development permit that we're withholding based on this change of the fence?
If I may, Your Worship, just to clarify through you to Councillor Fraz. So what would happen is if the motion passes to amend the terms of permit, we would need to replace Schedule L 4.1, which references the chain link fence design. And they would also have to amend their landscaping deposit with the city so that it reflected the change in material costs. And then staff would basically have that condition as a term of the permit. So council would be issuing the development permit, but all the conditions and the design drawings and everything are part of that permit. So it would enable staff to say that they're not in compliance with that particular term. So there would be a little bit of work on their part to change, to essentially get us a new drawing and a new landscaping estimate. And then staff would have the ability to, as Director of Planning mentioned, to check for compliance when we're asked to reimburse or give back the deposit.
Okay. All right, thank you. So here's where we sit, is that if the developer decides that he goes along with putting the fence the way we're talking, and the extension of the park fence all the way through for his property, then this development permit is approved and we're away to the races. So there isn't anything that's slowing us down. The only thing that would slow us down is if the developer says, no, I don't want to, then he has the opportunity and every right to go bring it back to the planning department for approval of something different. Okay, and that's kind of where we're at. Correct, Director of Planning?
If I may, Your Worship, I don't have delegated authority to issue permits unless it's done through a resolution. So if they don't proceed with council's direction per this resolution, then they would need to come back to council to essentially resolution.
Sorry, I just cut out one step there. My apologies. It didn't mean that you would approve it. They would bring it to you for our approval here at the council. All right. So here we are. We've got the discussion. Have the discussion. Call it for Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this isn't about the fence. It's just a comment that I'd like to make that I wish I had made in the first place. I don't know what council thinks of the design of this building and the barn-like buildings that are all over this property. I'm not impressed with the design at all of this and the type of buildings. And I just wondered whether other councillor members had looked at that. I mean, this is a great piece of property to have barn-like buildings on it. The restaurant might prove to be attractive. I can't really tell by the pictures, but certainly the other buildings aren't. Just wondering whether anybody had looked at that.
These drawings have been looked by the ADP, and they have given their blessing other than save and accept the fencing at this point in time. So I think, it's gone through that. That dog has already escaped, if you will.
Yeah, I realize that, but still, I think we should have had some discussion on these buildings before this late date.
Yep.
Anyways, just a comment.
Thank you. All right. I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Councillor Fraz and Councillor Patterson are opposed to the amendment. It passes. Now we're going to vote on recommendations 1 and 2 as a package then, as amended. Thank you. I don't talk as fast that way. All right. So all those, any discussion, any more discussion on recommendations 1 and 2? Okay. Call the question. All those in favor of recommendations 1 and 2 as amended? Unanimously carried. Thank you. Mr. Russell, we're going to give you another chance at seeing if you can shorten it up a little bit.
Oh, okay. All about me.
It's all your fault.
If I may, Your Worship, for council consideration is a reissuance of a development permit at 155 Hearst Avenue East. This is a permit that lapsed on December the 17th, 2020. It is intended to facilitate a 3-story mixed-use building with commercial on the ground floor and 10 residential units above with associated parking and landscaping improvements. The recommendations are as per the agenda for consideration of issuance.
Okay, I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Councillor Greer and Councillor O'Brien, Councillor Greer. Discussion. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question to our CAO or perhaps our Director of Planning. And it's just how many times can a permit be renewed before it, things have to be looked at as to whether the landscape deposit meets and all of those other things that come forward.
If I may, Your Worship, through to Councillor Wilson, the development permit itself, until there's an OCP change, it would be challenging for it to be issued by a council in compliance with the guidelines to then be found at a later date to not be in compliance. In my experience, they're typically generally not issued more than twice in general. It'd be a pretty rare occurrence for a third time. I'll put it that way.
Thank you.
The CAO would like to make a statement.
If I may, Your Worship, sorry, just to be a little bit nitpicky, we're actually not renewing it, we're reissuing. So it's kind of a nuance, but we don't have an ability to just renew. It does have to come back to council, and it's basically a new permit at this point.
Okay. Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Worship. And just for clarification as well, for a reissuance of a development permit, it's a 2-year time period. So up until after this lapsed in December, I guess you would say. So now they would have 2 years from the date of today of the reissuance if we so choose to do that.
Thank you. Any other discussion, comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Mrs. Weeks.
Yes, thank you. So this is for the food concession in the community park. The most recent agreement expired August of last year with no further option to renew. Staff are now seeking direction on the provision of mobile food concession services in the community park. So since 2015, the city has provided food concession services through mobile food vendors managed through the seasonal license of occupation. The Chamber of Commerce has been successful in obtaining the license for the past 6 seasons. So staff are proposing an agreement for 2021 with an option to renew for an additional term at the city's discretion. And the recommendation is as per the council agenda.
I need a mover for all 3 recommendations. Councillor Greer, seconded by Councillor Chandler. Discussion? Councillor Chandler?
All right, thank you. Through your worship to CAO Keller, I just wondered if when we talk about this, is this particular plan, is it going to be automatically awarded back to the chamber, or does it go to an RFP? And I'm sorry, I should have directed this to Amanda.
That's okay, through your worship. This will be going through an RFP for everybody to bid on.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor O'Brien?
Thank you, your worship. And this is through to Amanda, if I may. Would the RFP include also as part of it to the off-season concession as part of the new RFP? Since it seems to have come up that it is a possibility and it should be handled at the same time, would that be part of that new RFP?
No, it would probably be handled separately, but if it could be handled the same, we would just need a resolution from council to that effect.
Would you need a separate recommendation or a separate
A separate
resolution
motion.
anyways at this time? I see. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Greer?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we've had a request from one of the businesses to open up during the winter months.
That's
Has been
exactly
anything-
what- Yes, you're right.
And what has been done about that?
Absolutely nothing at this point. That was just what Councillor O'Brien was inquiring about right there. We could add it as an amendment to this motion
For winter months?
for the winter months.
Because
And-
in this, it doesn't tell you winter months.
No, there's nothing, no mention of it at this point in time,
No.
Councillor Greer, but we could add it as an amendment so that we could evaluate it all at the same time.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay. Am I hearing a motion or an amendment?
If I may, Your Worship, I think there's two options. You can either amend it so that it goes out under the same RFP, or you could do it as two separate so that there might be more opportunity for people to just bid on the off-season or just bid on the main season, because I think that gives a bit of flexibility to
good
the
suggestion.
operators.
That's a good idea. All right, so we'll hold that thought until we're finished this one then, okay? Discussion on the current one, the standing recommendations. Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Question to our corporate officer. So this RFP, if it's approved today, and that the closing date is for February 26th, is that correct then? So I'm just concerned with the shortness of time.
Good question. Did we feel it can be done and handled by the end of February?
I also need some clarification on,
If I may, Your Worship, through you to council, well, to all of council, staff can make the RFP longer if you wish. Historically, we do them for 30 days, mostly, sometimes for a little bit longer, but we could certainly make it a later date if council thinks that that gives a little bit more opportunity for people to respond.
Or 30 days from when staff get it done?
Absolutely, yeah. Whatever council would like, we can make it work.
Okay. Councillor Patterson, did you have a follow-up then? Not yet? Okay, she's holding it. Any other questions? All right, I'll call this one. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay, now I need the new motion. Somebody? Councillor O'Brien?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to put forth a new motion anyways to present an RFP or prepare an RFP to handle the off-season. Similar understanding as what the main contract has been in the past, only to cover the off-season period only. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Chandler. Discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Mrs. Weeks. Springwood Park Concession Agreement.
so this report is to seek approval from council to renew the Springwood Park Concession Rental Agreement with the Parksville Royals Baseball Club for the period of January 2021 to December 31st, 2023, with an option to extend for a further 2 years. So the Royals have successfully operated this concession at Springwood Park since 1997, and other user groups have also benefited from the use of the concession as profits from the facility are put back into various user groups. And the recommendations as per the council agenda.
Moved by Councillor Greer, seconded by Councillor Patterson. Discussion? Councillor Chandler?
Thank you, Worship. Just a comment. I think this is a great facility, a great use, and keeps things very safe for the people that are using this location in respect to doing concessions and things of that nature. So I like the idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Worship. Just a comment. I'm so really pleased that with the Springwood Park and the Royals and the concession and that they give it the money and everything that's made back into that facility in the area. And it's what our volunteers and parents and so many youth groups and everything that benefit this community. So I just kind of want to say thank you to anyone out in Zoom world and that as
Virtual
well.
world.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions, comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Mrs. Weeks, you're going well. Keep going.
Last one. So this report was deferred from the December 7th council meeting. Further information regarding grants and costs were sent to council as per the discussion at the last council meeting and the recommendations as per the agenda.
I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Patterson. Discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Mrs. Kaling.
If I may, Your Worship, this is pretty much a housekeeping issue. Council may recall around this time last year, same item came forward for our security tender. It's above my authorization for spending. So we're just seeking approval from council to extend the contract with Footprints based on the bid for an amount of $111,556. Recommendations are per the memo.
Any moved by Councillor Greer, seconded by Councillor Fraz. Discussions? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. I won't even get into that conversation today. There was a long discussion at the regional meetings the last regional meetings. Mrs. Kaler.
If I may, Your Worship, this report is regarding the School District 69 use agreement for the Parksville Community Centre. As council is aware, staff were given direction to prepare a use agreement with the school that would enable the students at Pass Woodwinds to continue uninterrupted use of the commercial kitchen facility at the community center. This was negotiated with the school district in the late fall and advertised publicly in December. And essentially, I think to some of our surprise, there has been a change in the condition of the center since that discussion commenced with the school district that has resulted in the society removing key pieces of equipment that enable the students to use this facility. And so at this point, there's a lot of information in the report, which I will not reiterate or regurgitate. But essentially, this report is seeking direction from council as to whether or not we continue the agreement, knowing that it really cannot be honored without some reinvestment to replace equipment that has been taken out of the center, or is council willing to essentially approve the costs to replace and then pursue reimbursement with the society under separate legal means. And recommendations are simply to receive, but we are seeking council direction as to how to move forward.
Let's handle the receive part first. Councillor Greer made the motion. Councillor Chandler. I'm going to make a bit of a comment here at the beginning, if you don't mind, and then we can have a discussion on the whole thing. Before we get into a full-blown discussion here, I want to address a couple of issues for clarity. We need to understand that the status of all the parties. To begin with, the Parksville Community Centre Society's function was to operate the Parksville Community Centre on behalf of the city. They did this under an operating agreement that expired on December the 31st. This operating agreement did not give the Parksville Community Centre Society ownership of any assets unless they can prove they directly paid for them. We have always indicated that we were choosing not to enter into a new operating agreement with the Parksville Community Centre Society, and we have begun discussions to enter into a lease or an operating agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of Central Vancouver Island. We have entered into a letter of intent at this time, and the terms of this agreement have not been finalized in the near future. It is our position, supported by the independent KPMG report, who, according to the delegation earlier today, is one of Canada's leading professional service firms, that all of the assets belong to the community center and not the society, and that they were taken without authorization. But we're going to leave that at this point in time for the courts probably to have to decide on who owns what. But unfortunately, right now we have a situation where the Parksville Community Center removed the assets that even their lawyer acknowledged were paid for by the city, and left the past Woodwind students unable to continue with their course. I cannot see that this is fair, so I will be supporting a motion, if we put it in place, for the city to replace the missing equipment, and we can, as I said, later fight about it in court as to who owns it and who's going to pay for it. Later, we can get these, we've got to get these kids what they need so that they can continue on with a very, very good course that was been provided to them. So this has been going on for a number of years. It's not something new. I think it's important that we go forward with this. So I'll pass that on for comments. You're going to make the motion to? We still have a motion on the floor to receive, and then we'll come back in. Okay, so do that. Councillor Franzen and Councillor O'Brien.
Thanks. My comments question here through the mayor to city staff. I have a concern just as regards to, I've seen some comments online, I've seen the report here, and there seems to be some, different sides to the story, as there always is, but in particular, we saw today the delegation was saying there's misinformation here. I want to get some clarity around what happened with this cooking program, because it was said that the kids, in here, the report is saying that the dishwasher is disconnected, equipment was disconnected out of that, and there was an interruption of the service. But I saw a photo going around online showing that they had cooked their turkey, trying to say that everything was just business as usual, which I don't believe is the case. So maybe you can give us some clarification there, because I know there's a whole lot more that goes into cooking a turkey than just putting it in the oven, particularly when it comes to the food safe regulations and so on. So yeah, if you can clear that up, please.
Sure, if I may, Your Worship.
Please.
So I'll just go through my notes here from the chronology of events. And so at the time of writing the report, this was the information that we had. So on December 16th at 8:53 a.m., I received an email from the School District 69 treasurer expressing concern about the condition of the center's kitchen when the past Woodwinds cooking class arrived that morning. The center was operated by the society at this time, and the teacher responsible for the class indicated in the email that equipment had been removed that precluded them from continuing with the class as planned. The email stated that a dishwasher, which was required for sanitizing equipment, especially important during COVID times, had been removed, and the teacher could not proceed with the class until he had confirmed with Island Health whether or not he needed to use the sanitizer to conduct the class. City staff were advised by the district representatives that this was a very important year-end class where students would be preparing holiday meals for their families, and they expressed concern that this could not proceed as planned without the expected equipment being there. Immediately that morning, I contacted the city solicitor, who in turn contacted the society solicitor, and we indicated our opinion that the unilateral decision to disconnect and remove kitchen equipment was a breach of the society's operating agreement. We also were surprised because our solicitor indicated that there were good faith discussions underway about closing out the agreement and what constituted a center's asset as opposed to the society's asset. The society's solicitor responded to ours on December 18th, confirming that the dishwasher had only been disconnected, not removed. The solicitor went on to say that it would be reconnected and the society did not claim ownership of this piece of equipment. However, that position changed between December 18th and December 31st, and the dishwasher has been removed. This was the information I had available when writing the report. And based on the concerns or questions from a number of counselors about a photograph of a turkey, I reached out to the school district to speak with them again. And so here's what I've been advised. Basically, the teacher responsible was able to adapt his plan and proceed with a more limited menu. He had to adjust for the missing pieces of equipment. He was able to cook a turkey and ham. However, he had to go back and forth multiple times between the Bolinas school and the center because he was required to sanitize all of the equipment, the cooking utensils and pans and that nature. He said a modified menu was required because a boiler had been disconnected unexpectedly. Essentially, they had to adapt and cook the meal in 2 separate locations with a very challenging cleanup situation. I think it does speak as the school district treasurer to the commitment of the teacher that he was able to pull this all together with 0 notice, arriving on the 16th to a change in the condition of the facility. Further, I had I would say, disturbing commentary from the teacher that he was asked on the day a PCC rep asked him on the day if he could take a picture or they could take a picture of the turkey for, quote, historical purposes and to highlight the good work the school was doing in promoting food programs for youth. He stated that he feels tricked and manipulated and that the photo has been taken under false pretenses, and he expressed dismay that his class and the students, in his opinion, are being used for political reasons. I think the key point that I was trying to make in the report is that the center's kitchen has been left in an unusable and unsafe state by the society, and the class with the children at Past Woodwinds cannot continue in any form without a safety inspection occurring to address gas odors that were previously reported to the society, to address and make safe exposed wires, and to replace critical equipment, as mentioned, the key one being the dishwasher. And at this point, also the ovens have been removed. The tables have been removed. All utensils have been removed. All the racks in the freezer, all the racks in the facility for the dishwasher, essentially everything has been removed. That there was a couple of items the city directly purchased, and as mentioned in the report, most of those items have been left, but there is one item that we also purchased directly, an ice machine for about $4,200 that has also been removed. At this point, I think staff's request or what we're asking for direction from council is whether we can, at this point, reinvest or purchase new equipment to allow the kids to continue, or do we essentially tell them that, you know, they can't really use the facility as was intended?
Thank you. Councillor Greer, follow up? Councillor Frass, I'm sorry. The youngest and the oldest.
I'm not that good looking.
Okay.
Thank you for giving that clarification there too. It's I think a little bit lost of words, a little bit shocking to hear that. Like something I've always thought too is when any job you're doing or any kind of agreements in place, it's always the people that you work with that make the difference. Either make it, you know, or I should say the personalities, they either make it a pleasure, they make it a pain. And unfortunately, there's a lot of pain that I'm seeing in this, the closure of this agreement. And yeah, I don't know what else to say at this point. That one thing actually that comes to mind when I was reading through this KPMG report, it mentioned back in as far back as 2014 that the society has had struggled with its board of directors as far as the amount of board of directors by its own bylaws requiring to have 5 directors on board. And it's not clear that when they've met that requirement. I do know at their last AGM when I attended it, there was only 3 board of directors involved there. So in this report, it's saying how the society could not continue in its role as a facility operator if they don't if they don't upkeep by their own bylaws and that. So I just thought I'd make mention of that because as we renewed it for this 2020 year, as it was, maybe that should have been looked at a little bit closer because I don't know if they even fulfilled the requirements to be a facilitator operator for us.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson, and then, and then Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, so like Councillor Fraz, I think I have had some concerns. I have in the past worked to bring people on the board for the society at the Parksville Community Centre. I had applications at my place of business. So I'm going to talk about restaurant or about food service for a moment, and that I'm deeply concerned because gas lines are a wee bit scary for someone who's had a fire. So I know that we will have to have VHA, which is Vancouver Island Health Authority, come in. They're going to have to recertify that kitchen space. We will have to look at, if we choose to put that equipment back in place, an amendment to our budget, and we will have to think about that amount as well. So I'm going to just put that out there because a lot of these pieces of equipment are quite expensive. As our CAO has already mentioned, just the ice machine alone was just under $5,000. So the time period to obtain these pieces of equipment, if we choose to go forward, still leaves the Past Woodwinds group without an operating kitchen for, I would expect, a few weeks. And that, so I just want to put those comments out there to the rest of council because it's not a quick fix in any stretch of the imagination.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have two questions here, and well, one first comment is thank you so much for our CAO's chronological events as listed on the report here. Well done and so forth. And number one question is this report available online with the agenda and minutes and so forth? Will this be part of the package so that the people can actually see this report, so that the public can see this? Or is it just only the minutes that gets put on that? Or, you know, because I feel it's really important that the public understand the deplorable actions as in taken by this society. And I think it's important that we get that information out there.
Sorry, if I may, Your Worship, through you to Councillor
please.
Bryan, are you referring to the report in the agenda or the legal emails?
I'm referring to page 133, 134, and 135 of the background material.
Yeah, that
So
is
read
all
there.
available on the open agenda and has been available since the agenda was posted on Thursday.
Thank you for that, answering that question. I think that's very important to do so. And the other thing is that, well, I can echo Councillor Patterson's comments about, you know, these products in the kitchen were actually, the appliances were installed by certified gas fitters. I have to question whether they're actually de-installed by certified gas fitters as well, which made the whole liability issues surrounding the PCC and all the buildings around here possibly in a state of danger. Because the thing is that anything, whether you're hooking up or disconnecting, it has to be done by certified fitter. At which time, if the equipment, as Councillor Patterson has suggested, comes back, it will certainly have to be re-inspected at extra cost as well. I find that it's unfortunate now that we're left to proceed the litigation route. That's the only option that's been left to us. I'm saddened and disappointed that this is the action they felt was necessary. I recommend fully to pursue this as you may see fit. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Chandler, and then we'll wrap up the receiving part, and then we'll move into the next phase of the question.
Thank you, Worship. Just a comment to CAO Keller. Thank you for your information. That's very complete and gives us a pretty good picture of what's going on. And I'm very saddened by it. I've been involved with several schools that over the years, I've promoted and sold to over several years in the cooking class programs. And that's places like John Barsby down in Lanceville and Ladysmith, their programs. They're huge programs. Everybody that's involved in them, these kids really go a long way. It's in some cases, it can be life-changing for some of them that are going down the wrong path. So I think that it's incumbent on us to really make sure that we steer these kids in the right direction. I would fully support this. And I also would like to put a press release out. It would be my preference to let people know exactly what's happened here. I think an official press release as far as what needs to happen here and what has happened, I would really like to see that. I think that's a more appropriate course of action to make here. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have a motion on the floor to receive. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Now, Councillor Greer, you were going to make a motion.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, I'd like to make a
I
motion.
just got promoted.
What's that?
I just got promoted.
Oh, did you? What did I say? Oh, Your Honor. Okay. Well, you're not a bad guy anyways. But anyways, I'd like to make a motion that we replace the equipment in lieu of the fact that these kids need to be back in class as soon as possible. And I'm not so sure. I talked to the mayor today and we were talking 20,000. I'm not so sure whether that was the amount that we would put in the budget for this, but I'd recommend that we go ahead and fix that kitchen up and put in new equipment.
We have, as a matter of fact, the CAO has some numbers, if I'm not mistaken, on it. So let's. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. You made the motion. I need a seconder for Councillor O'Brien. My apologies. I got so excited there because I got a promotion to Your Honor.
Your Honor, what?
Page 140 shows the amounts, if you want to see them. Please, go ahead.
If I may, Your Worship, just through you to council, staff are asking for $20,000 just because, as Councillor O'Brien mentioned, we will need to have professionals go and inspect the facility. And we figured that we would certainly make effort to get the best value and the best price for the equipment. We would choose the lowest, based on best values that we can find here. But these were considered the very bare minimum items that the teacher indicated were needed. And you'll note that it does not include the ice machine and some other kind of nice to haves. They basically just need the bare minimum, which is a work table that would allow them to socially distance while they're doing their prep. And also from a food safe perspective, you're not supposed to prep meat at the same area that you're prepping other things. And then obviously they do need a range and the commercial dishwasher. So we felt like 20,000 was more reflective of those additional costs that we would have to incur over and above the actual purchase of the equipment.
So we would make that $20,000 addition to the budget.
Councillor Fraz and Councillor O'Brien. Okay, Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to the CAO. These costs that are quoted, Ms. Kayla, like say the Russell Hendricks option is presented 17,470. Is that tax in or tax out? Tax out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tax out. Okay, so that, and this does not include cost for installation as well, does it not? It does not.
It does say we have a line in there for shipping and install of $1,800 to $2,200. So there is a number in there for it.
Okay. My only suggestion is that could we bump it to 25,000 just to make sure that we stay within it, so we don't have to delay it, because I think time is of the essence to make sure that these kids' program doesn't suffer a loss. Could we bump this to 25,000? Would that have any?
Would you be willing to make a favorable amendment to 25?
Yeah, I guess we could, although
We don't have to spend it all.
No, we don't have to spend it all.
Right.
So I'd go along with that.
Who was the seconder?
Doug was the seconder. Yep,
Okay.
that's fine.
All right, so there's where we're at. All right, any other questions, comments?
Yes.
Councillor Raz, oh, sorry, and then we'll come to you. Oh, he's passing it on to you, Councillor Wilson, please, go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. So one of the, I want to also just say thank you to our CAO for responding to some of the questions I had earlier to her today and doing a tremendous report. But the other thing I want to ask is whether or not any of this fund cost for the equipment is covered under the COVID fund.
If I may, Your Worship, I think that there would be a solid argument that the dishwasher certainly could, in that it is required for sanitizing and reduces the risk of any infection, not just COVID. Most of the other equipment, probably I would say no, just because I don't myself see the clear link to COVID, but obviously if council disagrees or can see that it's tied to recovery or safety in any way, that's really council's call. As we know, the province hasn't given a lot of direction. However, they do say that it shouldn't be used for capital purchases unless they can be clearly linked to COVID. So we have purchased things like screens and things that make it easier to clean the surfaces of certain equipment and stuff. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, council can make a different choice there.
Thank you.
Councillor Frass.
Thank you to council through the mayor. While I totally agree that this equipment needs to be replaced, it's unfortunate that it was removed in the first place. The only suffering that happens is to the community here. My view on this is that I see that the community is being held hostage out of this situation right now by having this equipment removed, and I don't think that the community should have to pay to have equipment that was already in place and already able to be used just because of some personalities disagree with our decision that we made as far as renewing the operating agreement or not. I see this as a move, as a kind of a protest on their behalf. And I think they should reconsider their actions and do the right thing and return that equipment so that the community can continue to, and the school can continue to go on with their cooking program. So I'm not going to be supporting the budget amount to replace that equipment out of our pocket simply because I don't think, negotiating with that kind of situation is one that I want to engage with. I do appreciate, though, the reasoning behind this of bringing this amount to replace the equipment. I do think their equipment needs to be done. I just don't think the community should have to pay this price twice. It's costing the community for what? Just out of disagreement, just out of bitterness, because people can't accept a decision that was made. So I'm not going to be supporting it for that reason, and I hope that the society reconsiders their actions.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. And further to Councillor Frass's point, I understand that this is a personality issue, and I fully agree with the intention of your comments, Councillor Frass. Could we not make an amendment to this motion to suggest that the following, we'd okay the purchase of brand new equipment after we have already sent a registered letter to the society asking them to please return the equipment, as for mentioned anyways, that we have to replace here, and just ask them to return it and send a letter to that effect, a registered letter anyways to them, just asking them to do so. And because the reality is that as a society, there's very strict rules as to what they can do with any equipment and assets and or cash as to what happens after that society is wound down. And so I'm really not sure what their intention is doing other than paying storage somewhere for this equipment. So at least give them the option to do the right thing, as Councillor Fraz, I think, is saying, let's just agree to behave and make that as an amendment to that motion.
You're making that amendment? Pardon me?
If I may, Your Worship, if we want to amend the motion, Councillor Greer was the mover. My only thought or comment, I guess, would be just in terms of the delay that may result. We are supposed to be getting back, the city is supposed to be getting back the balance of the reserves, both the capital and the operating, and the balance of the operating fee. And as council is aware, staff have asked for an update as to when that would be coming, and we were advised that the society's solicitor will advise our solicitor when they're ready to do that.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through our CAO. I understand the conundrum that does present to us. I would say would be within a 1 week time period to get a response. If there's no response within one week, then we proceed with the original intention of replacing the equipment.
Just wait a minute, hold on just for a second, just so we don't complicate this terribly. Why don't we just agree that we will have our legal counsel submit a legal letter to them immediately and get it moving forward without doing the amendments or anything. We'll just do that, and we'll just wait for a week before we place the order. Would that not be a lot simpler? Can we do that?
If I may, Your
Just
Worship,
seems simple.
I'm cautious of having legal discussions, but in an open meeting, but the solicitors have been working together for quite some time, so perhaps in a closed meeting, I can provide an update. I guess, imploring from the teacher and the school district themselves, the classes did commence the week of January 4th and have not been able to be held as a result of the equipment being removed. So there is a time sensitivity around it, but I do certainly understand where council's coming from. It's a tough situation we've been put in for sure.
Okay. Councilor Fraz?
Sorry, just recognize before I speak to it, maybe the amendment could get moved. If Al agrees to that amendment, then I'll speak to it.
You're talking about giving them a 1 week opportunity. Well, yeah, I can go along with one week, but I think it's an emergency situation. These kids have to get back in their class, and I think it's important for them over the fact of a few things that have been taken. But in asking them for the equipment back, I would also like to stress that there's going to be consequences if they don't.
So if I can, recognizing the time sensitivity of this, I think we're in a situation where there is no way to get out of this unscathed. As you mentioned, the class has already resumed. It's already painful for them as it is. I don't want to see it dragged out any longer, but I do think it providing them the opportunity to reconsider their actions. And at the very least, while we're deciding or if there's, legal proceedings trying to figure out the equipment, it doesn't need to be sitting in storage while that's figured out. It can be operational for the classes while that's getting sorted out. If they determine that's their equipment and they should be having it and they should take it out of there and the community needs to buy another set, then so be it. Then, we go through that place. But in the meantime, right now, this is just at the community's expense for nothing. So I do think they could have a second sober thought and reconsider their actions. If it takes us a week to do that, I think it's a week well spent.
I'm concerned about that too now.
Sorry, if I may, Your Worship, and through you to council, I'd just like to maybe clarify the motion so that staff understand what the amendments are and also council can understand what they're voting on. So what we have on the floor is that we would, staff would be directed to replace the equipment up to $25,000, and that would be added to the budget, but that would, a registered letter would be sent to the society through our solicitors, giving them a 1 week turnaround time to reconsider and return the items. Is that correct?
Yeah, 1 week moratorium.
Okay, thank you.
Is that what everybody wanted?
I go along with that.
Could I just say something?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I've been kind of waving up here. I just thank you through you, Your Worship. I just want to say that for sure the equipment has to be in place in that 1 week period. There's no point in just sending a letter and giving them a week to say, yes, we'll do it. It actually has to be there so we can move on the amendment or on the purchase.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think that saying that the equipment has to be there in a week, we don't know how long it would take to facilitate like getting equipment back in place. I think if we could just have have it resolved as far as what the action is going to be within a week. But to say the equipment has to be in there, I mean, I don't know if we could even get equipment bought, purchased, and installed within a week.
No, oh, can I just clarify that?
Go ahead.
What I meant is for the society to return the equipment, not for us to purchase the equipment. That because they can say they're going to bring it back, but they may not bring it back within the week. So then we're delayed again. So what I'm saying is that the letter goes out immediately and they're given a week to have that equipment returned.
I think what we all have to bear in mind here is that we're pushing this off for another week.
Yeah.
And then at best case, we could probably got another week of them returning the equipment if that were to be the case. If it's not the case and they say, no, we're not returning it, we'll go to court instead, which will be the alternative, then we have to go out and buy the equipment. If we go out and buy the equipment, we are waiting another 3 weeks to get that equipment in. And that's not even installed, that's just in, if I'm not. So trust me, from somebody who's in the middle of a renovation, the timeframes of getting something in and getting something done are two different, very different numbers. So having said that, we're going to be looking at best 4 weeks, probably 5 before we get there. It would just a thought. So everybody keep that in mind when we're just having this conversation. So now we've delayed these kids till the end of February. No, we haven't, but the kids have been delayed. I don't want to get them in the middle of it. That's the problem. And so that's the issue that I have with this. You know, I would hope that a nonprofit organization who claims to be doing all the best things for the community since 1947 has this in their heart to say, my God, we didn't realize that we were hurting these children, and we'll bring the equipment back tomorrow morning and put it in place. That's what should happen with somebody with a good heart here in this situation. And we would say, let's fight this one out separately. But as Councillor Fraz so eloquently put it, what's the difference whether it's sitting in a storage locker somewhere or whether it's sitting where it could be used by a very deserving group of children at school? I just don't see the argument here. So I don't know what to say about this. Councillor O'Brien.
Just further to your comments, Your Worship, I believe that a 1 week delay is reasonable in this case, considering the fact that I understand from their CAO that delivery was going to be 3 weeks regardless anyways, and then as you know, when it actually happens, it turns into 4 or 5 weeks. I understand that it's unfortunate for the kids. They're caught in this. They're caught in this whole thing, and this is not what as adults we should allow to happen. But here we are. So I think a week, keep it simple. We need a response within a week, and then we'll handle it from there. And I believe that that's the best thing. And the sooner we get that out, and the sooner we get out of this meeting, the sooner that can happen. So that's my thought.
All right, I'm going to call the question because we beat this one to death. But all those in favor of the discussion, the motion on the floor. Pardon me? We got to do, oh yeah, we did the amendment. All right, on the amendment to the motion. All in favor? All right, now I need to vote on the amended motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Let's see if we can get this done. Thank you very much, folks. Great conversation. I know it's not the easiest conversation to have. Mrs. Cameron.
Thank you, Your Worship. Hopefully this one is a little bit easier. So this report is in response to a direction from Council to rise and report on the 2021 work plan. Council was interested in explaining how the work plan items, major projects and staff direction from Council relates to the strategic objectives which were established by Council. And so the schedule outlines staff's thoughts on how those particular items are linked to your strategic objectives And one thing I would just like to point out I know council is aware of this after the facilitated session that we had, but just for the public's benefit, the list of projects is only the council specific projects. So it's things that arise from a resolution of council that would be given direction to staff. It does not include our regular day-to-day business that would happen regardless of who is on council or regardless of what happens politically. So I just wanted that made clear. You know, I did give some examples of what those things would be, such as all of our development applications and just sort of the normal city business that occurs on a day-to-day basis. There is one thing I would just like to point out, however, I made a mistake and I forgot to put in the gathering space. And so there's an amended motion in front of council just to make sure that before this is released to the public on our website, that project would be included as item number 33, I think. It just goes underneath the other grant grant item for the community park. And so that was my error. Despite many eyes looking at it, everybody forgot to put that very important project on the list. So at council's pleasure, I would just like for the schedule to be amended when we publish it. And recommendations are to receive, and council has the additional motion in front of them to proceed to publishing and doing some public engagement.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Greer, seconded by Councillor Chandler. Discussion? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Since the recommendation is not listed in the original agenda, and I'm not sure if it was made public on the website or anything, can we read the recommendation out, please?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. If I may, Your Worship, that is a very good point. So the recommendation per the agenda was to receive, and staff had anticipated that council would like to provide direction as follows: that the community park gathering space project be added to Schedule A of the report as item number 33 under the multiple objectives category, reflecting that this project would support recreation and economic development objectives of council, and that the following items in the table be numbered accordingly. That staff be directed to arrange a series of follow-up sessions via Zoom with the participants of the roundtable forum and prepare a survey for the broader public to allow residents the opportunity to provide feedback on the work plan, and that the work plan as amended, as we spoke, be added to the city's website, and a news release be prepared advising the citizens of council's progress and the planned projects and completed projects, which would also be discussed during budget deliberations.
Okay, everybody got that? So we're voting on the amendment now. All those in favor of the amendment?
Should need a mover and a seconder.
Oh, what the heck? I thought we had that. Pardon me?
That was to receive, so I'll put forward the motion for the recommendation as.
You're right, you're right. We just
stated.
skipped a step. Just a detail. All right, moved by Councillor Patterson, second by Councillor Greer. Now, we're all caught up. Call the question. All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so now we go back to the recommendation for a vote on that. I just want to make a comment if I could. God, I hate these things because they steam up your glasses. And the staff report talks about how we established our strategic objectives by engaging with people at the round table early in our term, and then through an online survey and follow-up sessions on the strategic plan outcomes. I am proud of the many things that we have already accomplished, and it was always my intent to follow up with the people who had offered their suggestions and engaged with us on important things that we wanted to see for Parksville during our term. We knew we would have to stay focused on these key strategic priorities if we wanted to achieve real results. I think we have done a great job there. I would like to make the following motion arising from the discussion on the work plan, including a minor amendment, which we've already done, I guess, so I'm past that one. Okay. But I just wanted to say how proud I am of this council. This council has done an amazing job in putting through all of that work that's showing up on those lists. If people think that we didn't earn our wages this year, they should be reading all the stuff that you guys have processed. And I'm really proud to be part of that team. Thank you very much. And so we'll move forward. Recommendations are done. And do we need? Yeah, we're all set. Bylaws. Final adoption, the 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw 2020 to 2024, number 1564, to amend 2020 to 2024 5-year financial plan. I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Chandler and seconded by Councillor O'Brien. Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Parks and Open Spaces Committee recommendations. Councillor Fraz and O'Brien, would one of you like to introduce the recommendation from the Parks Committee? We're debating.
So much easier without the masks.
It is, isn't it?
At this time, Your Worship, I would like to propose the following, that the council approve the recommendation from the Parks and Open Space Committee that $43,493 in the standing minor capital account for replacement of playground equipment from the 2020 approved budget for a freestanding play structure that contains 2 slides, climbing towers, balance objects, and free form play elements at Shelley Park be carried forward to 2021 due to COVID-19 related delay of the equipment's planned installation in 2020.
Seconded by Councillor Fraz. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. We have one motion on the agenda in lieu of notice. Councillor O'Brien, would you like to introduce the motion?
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, I would like to present to council the recommendation that city staff be directed to formally engage the Nature's Trust staff to prepare options for the alignment, design, and conditions of use for the Rath Trevor Greenway Trail, including the preparation of recommendations for environmental enhancement, mitigative measures, and stewardship opportunities for the estuary. And part 2 of the recommendation would be that council approve the appointment of Councillor O'Brien to initiate negotiations with the Nature Trust for the provision of access through the estuary for a pedestrian path, which may include discussion about design elements and mitigative measures during and after construction opportunities for park dedication along the Englishman River, and estuary and regulations for use of the trail when it commences operating. Councillor O'Brien will work with the Nature Trust to seek consensus recommendations to present to council on trail design, development, and operation.
Seconded by Councillor Fraz. Discussion?
Thank you, Your Worship. So basically, the wording of this recommendation is designed to assist staff in carrying forward with our strategic plan of working to get the Rath Trevor Greenway Trail under construction and completed in a timely fashion. There's been a few hiccups, of course, that have been come up because it's carried on for a number of years type of thing, and now we want to bring it to a conclusion. And so we just feel that it just needs a little nudge at this particular point to take it to the next level so that we can carry on with construction in a timely fashion.
Thank you. Any other, Councillor Patterson?
Just a comment. I'm really pleased to have this back on track, and hopefully moving forward. It's been a long, long, long time in the making from someone who's been around a little bit. So I'm optimistic that this project may see its fruition in this term. Thank you.
The only correction I'd make is not a may see, we will. This is important. And it's been going on for 12 years. So, Councillor Fraz.
I just want to make a comment to thank Councillor Bryan for putting yourself forward on this too. I appreciate that.
I think it's important. There's been a few balls dropped along the way over the years, as we all know. So this is important that it's got its focus now, and we're going to go forward and get this done. Boy, oh boy, it'll be nice this time next year to be sitting here saying we're almost to the bridge. Okay, call the question. All those in favor? No pressure, by the way, Councillor O'Brien. Thank you. It passes unanimously. Does any member of council have notice of motion? I think we tuckered you all out. Anybody have any new business they wish to discuss? Councillor Chandler?
Thank you, Worship. I just want to let council know, if they don't know already, but today I believe there was a fairly significant house fire just in the Foster Park area. I'd like to echo the pride that I have in the fire department here and the gigantic response and the quick response that they had to get to this fire. It's quite amazing. You know, these are all volunteers and we're so lucky to have them. You know, it's always been that case here in the city, and people really step up. They leave their jobs and they rush into what they don't know is going on. So it's cool. I just wanted to congratulate all of these people that volunteer for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that goes without saying from every one of us around this table, how proud we are of them.
Yeah.
Any other new business? Okay. Moving right along. Before we proceed to special business, I'd like to remind public that our next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, February the 1st, 2021 at 3 p.m. Wow. I need a mover and a seconder to pursuant to section 91C, E, K, and L of the Community Charter. Council proceed to a closed meeting to consider items relating to labor, land, and the proposed provisions of a municipal service and the discussions with municipal officers for the purpose of preparing an annual report. So I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Fraz, Councillor Greer, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. And we are going into close. We'll take 10 minutes. Just give us a break.